Testing 1, 2, 3. Microphone check 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Praise the Lord. This is Saint Tyrone from the Fold coming to you live and direct from our YouTube live stream ministry beyond the Open Door Ministries International. And this is a ministry that, oh yeah, the microphone's got to be just right. There we go. Good sound. That comes to you visually and audibly by my channel that we have on YouTube talking about the tragic news of Kevin Samuels, YouTube influencer who has touched the lives of millions of people and excited and ignited a firestorm of controversy in regards to African American men and women, which are only 14% of the United States population, but within that 14%, minus all the kids under 18, those who are above 18 years of age, in the generations of Generation X, Y, and Z, or Generation X, my generation, the millennial generation, now zennial generation of 2020. Kids made in 2020, kids made in 2000, and kids made in 1980. He has touched the lives of lots of people, and I just want to acknowledge and state emphatically how disappointed we are, how shocked we are. Let me share my screen. This is news that came out yesterday. I found out by looking online, coming from work, and looking forward to watching Kevin Samuels' typical show that he has on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 o'clock p.m. through about 2 a.m. He does a good 2-hour show, and he interviews different women and brings up various topics that have been controversial to say the least. This video is specifically about his last interview. Like we learn in the Bible, no one knows the day that we're going to die. No one knows the day that we're going to take our last breath, but we do know that day is coming. And as a singles minister and a person that's a Christian that desires to want to walk the fine line of Christianity and live right for God, I'm always thinking about that and always thinking about how we can, as every pastor would say, if he's worth his grain of salt, heal the black people. If we study the Old Testament, we learn about our history, we find out that we were slaves, not just in the Bible, but just in history of the United States. Today we have critical race theory, which unfortunately is being argued and attacked and talked about an aspect of whitewashing the world's schools to teach Europeans that black people were not under systemic racism in the 16, 17, 1800s, 1900s, and 2000s. And we're fighting that. And on that point of that CRT or critical race theory, we have within our African American community this issue of male and females being not married, having children out of wedlock. 86, 20% of black men are making 86% of the children out of wedlock. Think about that. 20% of black men are making babies out of wedlock. And then the women who having these babies are all saying they want a high value man, but they keep sleeping and getting impregnated and then choosing, because of feminism, to have the child, knowing the consequences of having that child on the life of that child, but they don't care because it's their body, right? It's their mind. It's Roe v. Wade. It's their feminist ideology. Well, that right there is coming to a head. We're getting ready to overturn Roe v. Wade, and it's going to affect a lot of women. They're going to think twice or go have a backwards abortion in some back city or state, which is dangerous, which can kill them. Or they're not going to get pregnant in the first place, which solves the problem, and therefore children won't be created that are not needed, that are not wanted, because the truth is most of the kids that women want to abort, abort them because they didn't want the child in the first place. But that's just one area, abortion. But the root of this whole issue that we're finding is Kevin Samuels brought up has been that our men have become black pill, or we call red pill. They have decided they were not going to submit anymore to kissing uh, and having the woman, quote unquote, get her way and do what she wants. We're going to challenge the arguments that have been made. And there's many, many arguments, many, many shows. Just let me show on the screen as we say rest in peace. We're right now waiting for the doing inspections of the body as I experienced my mother's death when she passed away in 2001 in her house upstairs on her bed. Cops had to come in and they had to do CSI analysis of that room, and me and Damien had to leave the condo because they didn't know for sure if me and Damien had something to do with her death or if this was an actual natural cause. So they got to go through autopsies and blood and all that stuff, glucose, everything, for this so-called healthy man who has tons of outfits and clothes worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, live in a nice, expensive home, cologne, perfumes, travel. I mean, we're talking a very wealthy black man. If you call the term high value, we would call him a high value man. Millions, if not tens of millions of women would have wanted to sleep with him and have his child. And that's why they called into his show, because he was authentically true to the best of our ability. We didn't know. And of course, I don't believe 100% of what a man says. I believe everyone lies. But his knowledge and his debate skills and his ability to communicate with women was spot on. Most men could not at all communicate with women when it comes to these areas. Most men just want to have sex with women. And because they want to have sex with women, they'll do whatever it takes to have that girl listen to that guy. And that's why we have a problem in the black community. Instead of black men standing up and saying the truth, most of the time, when they are at that age of 20 to 45, they are unfortunately running after girls. And of course, the girls are having high expectations, super high expectations that the women won't reach and won't get. And what Kevin Samuels did in many of his arguments, as he'd ask the same 7 to 10 questions per person, and the girls literally called a show. They called into a show, and they'd be asked the same questions, and they would literally act like they didn't hear him before, which blows me away because he's been on the show for 3 years, got 1.2 million subscribers. Women should have been watching this show 25 to 30 times before they make a phone call. I, as a man, I would never call into a show of other men if I had not listened to that show for a long period of time. I want to understand, especially when the show is a Q&A, same Q&A, same questions. I want to think about those questions and I want to frame them in my mind. I want to have an answer, a retort before I just walk into his show. Because you want to look smart, you want to look intelligent, you don't want to look stupid. That makes sense. So, as we heard yesterday, somehow he, at that show and in at 2 o'clock Thursday morning, it's like he had sex with someone. We don't know. They're going to keep that quiet because of the laws. And then, of course, he had chest pains, what is being told. Someone said he had chest pains. So then, because of chest pains, they said that in the morning he had chest pains and then he collapsed. Now, I don't know if the woman was with him. I have a strong feeling that there was a woman that spent the whole night. Most women don't come over to a nice man's house and then leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. They spend the whole night. So obviously they had sex. And of course, if he had chest pains or cardiac infarction, otherwise known as a heart attack, he should have got to the hospital, but they didn't call the doctor. And then of course the next day he's basically found unresponsive, not breathing. So he went through the whole night probably having chest pains and we needing help. And we have a major hospital called Grady, which helps all the downtown metro. And he wasn't called, the ambulance wasn't called, he wasn't going to Grady. So there we see lawsuits I see lawsuits coming. I do. I see some lawsuits coming. There's going to be a lot of, if the lead attorney is going to have a lot of videos coming up on this, because this is very tragic because of the moment it happened, when it happened, how it happened. And even though there's a spiritual component, there's a natural component to this as well. So I'm here to talk about both, because I believe as a singles minister, which a lot of people don't want to be underneath that title, they just want to be pastor of somebody. The truth of the matter is, more people will be single throughout their lifetime than married. If 26% of black people are married out of 100%, that means 74% of black people in their lifetime will be married. That means they're single. That makes my job much more important than a pastor who's married. Because a pastor can get married tomorrow. He can divorce, remarry, divorce, remarry. My father was married, I think, at least 6 times. That don't mean crap. What it really means is being a successful single person in the standpoint of living by God's words. And then when you're married, you take that into living by God's word as a single, as a single, now married individual in a couple relationship. So we're going to talk specifically about. I'm going to give you my theory. I'm going to show you the video picture of the last video that he did. These are some of the videos that have been done. He's got over 800 videos. As you can see, he always did the play taps and do the salute. And for it just to happen to him after doing the meme, after talking about dying alone, buy a dog, die alone, buy a dog, die alone, and now he dies alone. This makes this so hard on both sides. For the men, the odds are, listen, dude, you're gonna die young, and that's why I said it. My friend Shay, I said, man, our black men. I'm so frustrated seeing our black men die at a young age. I see on YouTube the number of black men who are 40 to 50 dying, and they're young. And now looking at Kevin, he's 56. He said it was 53. He's gone. And he's not, he didn't make it to 75. And I've been confessing for years, I want to make it to 85. I saw Brother Kenneth E. Hagin live to 85. My grandfather lived to 101. I only asked for 85 years, but that may not happen if I don't do the right things. So for me, it's shocking, very shocking. So Anton Daniels, he did his video. He said he did a lot in his short time here. And of course, Anton wants you to be a patron and all that stuff. That's the guy that over the Lapeef network. And Kevin Samuels came onto the Lapeef network and blew up the spot. I've been watching really Kevin Samuels since about March of last year, and since March of last year, he blew up YouTube. I mean, he just exponentially grew to a 1.2 million subscribers. And I post this stuff on YouTube, on Facebook. I subscribed. I became a patron of his channel. I'm not sure if I can be a patron now because I guess the channel is going to be defunct. But I paid my monthly fee. He was trying to build up a group where men and women could come together, a mix, and meet different successful black women in Atlanta. Now that he's gone, that becomes defaulted. Who would take his place? Because that's a great question. I don't think anyone can take his place right now, to be truly honest. I don't think no one has the wisdom and the knowledge and the ability to. But I am definitely starting to think he was poisoned. Something tells me this man was murdered, and it hurts my heart. So I can't play these videos due to copyright, but I just wanted to show you some of the savage moments that he had. For example, I'll talk specifically about some of the ones that I watched. Number one, this girl right here that I'm highlighting. You see my mouse? Yeah. She is a woman that literally is about 38, maybe 40 years old. She was with the man for about 15 years, probably since she was 18 years old. Had a child with that man, but they had a rocky relationship, right? That's per her, this is her statements. Got mad at this guy because he was cheating on her, so she said, I'm going to cheat on him with his so-called cousin. I don't know if it's his biological cousin, but it's something with someone related to him. And she has a baby from this guy. She comes on this show and Kevin's listening to her and she has no remorse. It's total narcissism. And it's just disappointing. Not only 47,000 people viewed it, but when you listen to the whole episode, it's sad because there are women out there that feel this way. And you don't want to meet a woman like this. And as a singles minister who definitely wants good women to get with good guys, it is tragic when you see stuff like that. Another one that I think was blown that blew me away. This one right here is this one right here. She's a non-saved so-called atheist. I'm highlighting it right there on my mouse. That one right there. It's called Kevin Samuel's Most Savage Moments Part One. But a lot of people are making money off of Kevin. They take parts of his views and they then make a rerun of it and they make their money. But now can't make no more money now because he's gone. So all the information, all the knowledge that was in that man's head is gone. All the years of study, all the hours and hours that he spent meditating on this is gone. And that's the tragedy of this moment because we needed a man like Kevin Samuels. We needed him in this world. Because white men ain't going to help us. Chinese men are not going to help us. And no other race of men are going to help black men help black women. It's only us helping us. So then there's tragic moments. He talks to a different woman. So here a black woman celebrating his death, and that's tragic. But these are the black women that are going to die alone. And the thing about it, just because Kevin Samuels has died, doesn't mean that these women are going to die too. And what this does, it makes death that much more a real deal, door in the face knocker. For a lot of us, we've experienced death. I experienced it when I was 21, then I experienced it at 25. So I've kind of gotten used to seeing death. I know it's a effed up experience, but there's a lot of people that have never experienced death. They're 40 years old and nobody in their family has died yet. So they're going to pay. But the thing that I want to bring it to is also the spiritual realm because I come from a Bible background where I went to two Bible schools and I'm now pursuing a third to get my master's and doctor of divinity degrees as I really want to serve God by having analytical abilities to really think and talk about these complex issues. Because the reality is the men of God of today are passing away. Pastor George O. Davis says they will come to an end. Bishop Daughter, everybody's coming to an end. We're all aging. And the 50-year-old plus ministers that are not reaching the 25-year-old ministers. hmm hmm Or the 25-year-old kids. Remember what I said earlier. In a previous blog on this channel, just did it earlier this morning at 5 o'clock. You can watch it on my channel. Go back if you go look at my video about Kevin. It's titled Kevin Samuels Passed Away on yesterday. Singles ministry has been a ministry that no one gives a care about. And the truth of the matter is, singles ministry, sadly, with all due respect, sadly, is the last thing on the world's list in the church. But it's has the highest potential of making a church grow into a mega church. Why? Let me answer. Oh, I didn't even subscribe. I got to subscribe. Okay. It's my second page. I got to subscribe. So the message that was on a day ago is called "Modern Women Are a Party of One," and what he did was he got a phenomenal picture of a girl, and she has a party for herself. But that's the problem. Women don't want to have a party for themselves. They want a husband, but they want a husband they can control and make do what they want the man to do. And a lot of men are like, no, the time is up for that. You're not going to take my sperm and control me and tell me when I'm going to have a baby. You're not going to take my money and control me and then divorce me when you want to and take half of it. Enforce me on alimony because you never had a job. You never wanted to work because you want to sit on your ass and stay at home. And I'm a minister, not cursed, and I apologize for that, but it's true. And then say, well, my job is so busy, I'm a mom. And try to make a mom like so hard. I had a grandmother on my mother's side who did not have to work because her husband worked. You know what ended up happening to that woman? Diabetes. Slowly over the years of having 7 kids, she got fatter because each child adds weight to your body. And she wasn't going to the gym to burn it off. And she slowly got obese, chair bound, more obese, then diabetic, then insulin, then at the end her legs were amputated and she died a horrible death of diabetes. That's wrong. Granddad was slim. He was literally, like I said, he had perfect height, short height, much slimmer than I am. I'm obese compared to my granddad. And yes, he had to get a pacemaker, but he lived to 101. That's because he did not have the abundance of fat on him that made him and made his heart and work hard. He cared about his body. He was active, so he couldn't be active no more. And he also had a daughter that took good care of him named Rita. And so that helps out a heck of a lot, having family support. But the tragedy, the sad thing, the issue is that these are the women that are today wanting men at a high value, and they all want to be a woman that doesn't, and this is the key question Kevin always asks. If when you're pregnant with your first child, do you want to have to work? Now he asks women who are 21 all the way to their baby making age of 40, which is like almost, that's the end of the day. Once you're 40, the odds of having kids is like 0%. I think it's like 3% chance out of 100 that over 40 you can have a child. And there's some that do, but that's a small percentage compared to out of 100. That means 97% chance you won't be able to have a kid, right? So why would you, if you know you make less than $100,000 a year yourself as a woman, say, this is a logical question versus emotional. Why would you say that you want a man that makes $100,000 when only 9% of black men make over $75,000 and really 1% or 2% of black men make $100,000 a year? You make less than 50. You want a man that makes $100,000, and you want that man to pay for you to stay at home and go through the pregnancy so you can have a quote-unquote healthy baby. We are already under the deficit of slavery and the Jim Crow segregation. And our ancestors were still able to have 7, 8, 9 kids under that 1900s through 1960s bondage. And now that we're out of that bondage, out of civil rights bondage of 1960 and 70, we're at a time where black women and black men are far better than they were in 1960, by far. I'm an engineer, where I know I would have never been an engineer in 1960 unless I was out of a rich family, but not growing up in the families I grew up in. And so the right answer, and if a woman logically thought about this, the right answer is, I can't stay home. We don't make enough money. I have to support my husband. That means I got to work and I got to have my baby in my stomach. I got to walk every day. I got to exercise and not be fat. I've got to lose the weight before I get pregnant. I got to have a gym membership. I can't be 80 pounds overweight. I can't be 210 pounds, 30, 20. I got to do my homework before I even entertain a man. And what Kevin Samuel says, that's exactly what you got to do. Kevin Samuel says that's exactly what you got to do. But the girls all answer the question of, I don't want to work. I want to stay at home. We're talking black women who grew up in a dysfunctional home. Mama was, you know, making less than 50. Grandmama making less than 50. She comes from a generations of poverty. But in her mind, she still thinks, I can have this abundant man. And Kevin's like, listen, and I think this part is wrong and right at the same time. Men that work that hard, that are structured that hard, that do the right things that hard to get to that point, like me, we had to sacrifice not having relationships. We had to put our grades, our books, our studies in front of girls. We don't have time to play around with some woman that's lazy and that just wants to use us for our money. And unless we wake up, we are going to be taken advantage of by girls like that. And in the family court system, which is going to kill us because the stress and the pain of going through divorce court and family court, it will shorten your lifespan. I think that Kevin's death is a preponderance of evidence. The stress that was on that brother, listening to those calls, you saw it. He would get so mad sometimes that you knew his blood pressure was going up. I would get mad and my blood pressure would go up, so I can only imagine his. And the girls would sit there on the show and they would be smiling like they don't have no empathy of what the fuck they're doing wrong. Excuse my French. Whereas Kevin's like, what you saying don't make any sense. It don't make any sense. So I'm going to talk about this last episode from this episode right here called Modern Party of One. Make sure that I mute the show. I'm going to show you a picture of the girl because again, we don't want to get no copyright laws. Push the actual mute button. There we go. Make sure that it's not playing. I think it was around about here at an hour and 45 minutes. Skip this ad. Excuse me. You got to have ads because this is not a premium site. Press stop. Stop it. Stop it. Thank you. Go over here. Right about here. And let me show you the girl that's on this show. I'm just going to share the screen. I'm not going to press play. Now, it's hard to see because I guess it's not showing up as 4K quality. Can't wait for when we go to 4K on the StreamYard because the quality will look a hell of better. But unfortunately, my computer screen only shows 1K, so it looks 1K on StreamYard. If I had a 4K monitor, it would be a 4K quality. So we're gonna have to get a 4K monitor in the future so that we can have 4K quality when we do our live streams and we share our screen. But that costs about $250 for monitor, so I have to save some money for that. So this woman right here calls in. I'm going to give you the statistics about her. Very easy because every woman has their own unique set of statistics. But because he asked the same questions, there's only so many answers to questions that he asked. And since I watched so many of his shows, I got lots of memory of some of the questions he asked. And I'm watching his show on another screen where you can't hear, so I get feedback, but you can't hear it. Therefore, YouTube can't hear it. Therefore, YouTube can't strike me because I'm playing his stuff on YouTube live. Does that make sense? All right. So the girl calls in and she's 25 years old. Now, just remember, 25 years old is his daughter's age. His daughter's age 20. So she's about 5 years older than his own. Well, actually, if he's 56, half of 56, that could be his daughter's age, right? We normally have kids at 20 years older. A lot of men at my age, 48, are not having kids because we ain't trying to have a 48-year-old. We don't want to be 48 years older than our child. I mean, that already set you up for disaster. I mean, look at my grandmama, her on my mother's side, who married a man that was 37 years older than her and had 6 kids. I mean, that's crazy, right? 8 total kids, 6 kids. And this was a man old enough to be my grandmother's father, which only said that my grandmother did not have a real father in her house. Because any man and woman that has a real father would not marry somebody that's the same age as her father. They would respect the older man, but they never would marry an older man. But that only the reason she did that was for money. She did it like a lot of women here to do it today, for money. And that's sad, and it's tragic because if you look at my grandmother's kids, my aunts and uncles on my mother's side, they nowhere match my aunts and uncles on my dad's side because my aunts, my mom and my grandmother and my granddad on my dad's side, they did the marriage the right way. Both of them were married. They both had all their kids. There was no extra men and women. There was no half brothers and sisters. They were all the same blood. So in this case, this girl's from Seattle, Washington, and she called in on Instagram, and then he connected Instagram to YouTube. So that's why you see it. I love it. I love that he was so adept with technology. And then so what ends up happening is the girl says, I'm in grad school. I'm in seminary school, which is great because I want to go to seminary, which is like master degree, PhD level, Doctor of Divinity, Master Divinity. There's so many different types of degrees in seminaries, theology degrees, etc. But she says at 25 years old, um, I'm a virgin. Well, excuse me. I want to wait for 2 years to have sex. First, I want to wait for 2 years to get married, and then I don't want to have sex until my wedding night. So these are terms that were taught to us by many churches that I was under from 1996 until the day. Many of the married pastors, okay, that were getting sex with their wives after they got married after a year of dating. Many of these men did not wait 2 years to get married. Have made statements like you need to wait 2 years to date somebody before you marry because you don't get a chance to understand who they are. Well, that depends because if you teach the men and women how to Q&A each other, write down notes, get the marriage therapy books, go through those questions in the marriage therapy books that I got that I bought for my ex-girlfriend Mary Ann, do that work, do that homework. You find out quickly you got areas of weaknesses and you got areas of weaknesses, and individually you got to work on your areas, and then both y'all come together. But still, you're individuals while being married. There's really no way another person can make me fix my problems. Only I can fix my weak areas because I had those before I met you, and vice versa. Well, no, that's not what women do. They get married, they go travel, they kind of act like they got it going on. And in the situation like my ex-girlfriend Mary Ann, she literally marries a guy that's in another country. The second time she's done this, she did it first in a guy named Burundi and brings him to America. He comes to America. A year later, divorced her because he got the green card, and now he's an American citizen, remarried. And then she's done it again. Meets another guy, marries this guy, but she was also dating the guy's best friend and wanted the other guy, but he was engaged to a girl. So because she couldn't get the first guy, who was the prince of a tribe, she gets the guy's best friend, who was kind of a weak 15-year-old junior. He's a baby. He's never had a real relationship. Any man that's 15 years old chasing a 40-year-old woman and you're 25, excuse me, I said 15 is younger. You're chasing a 40-year-old, you are weak. I know, I've been there. Because the reality is you don't have really good skills. A 25-year-old boy should be with a 25-year-old girl. But he says, I'll take her because why? He wanted to come to America. His motive was not marriage. His motive was to get to America. That's the motive. So when he turns 40 and she's 55, you'll see that's a divorce happening. Because now he's at his peak of 40 and she's out of the range now. She's 55 going to 60. That's tragic, but that's the way it's happening for a lot of our women. So this girl right here has her grad degree, and she's going to go, I think, get her PhD. She's studying to be an ambassador. She says that she was in a church in Seattle, Washington. She couldn't find a man there. She moves to Chocolate City. Well, we understand why. You're in Seattle, Washington. That's like being in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There ain't a lot of black men there. You got to be cognizant of that. You got to go to a place where there's more black men. But then the other side of that coin, Kevin Samuels asked a standard question as a singles minister, as a Baptist Kojic person, which I grew up under. Were you a part of a singles ministry at the church that you were at? Answer, I'm in the town. I'm going to school. I'm a 25, so I'm going to grad school here in D.C. I'm happy to be going to grad school. I'm going to find somebody. I'm hoping, hopeism. But no, I'm not going to a church with a good singles ministry. And I argue and submit that 99% of church today have no singles ministry. It is not produced. It's not pushed. It is crap. I came from a church called Faith Christian Center, Jacksonville, Florida. Now, Impact Church, Jacksonville, Florida. Singles ministry had a Stars for Christ, or Men of Valor. The Men of Valor was for the men to learn how to be men of valor. The Stars for Christ were singles taking a radical stand for Christ. The problem, and then they had a women's ministry. The women's ministry was always done and always supported. They had more women go to women's ministry than ever went to the Men of Valor. Men of Valor might have 6 people show up on a Saturday. Nobody showed up ever. But it was never marketed by pastor. He didn't push it. He didn't push it. So when you don't push something, that's what you get. Nothing. And so Kevin Samuels, as he argues, and I argue, and I stand on, I state emphatically, that's the way. So he then asked her, Kevin Samuels, asked this girl, okay, if you're not going to a singles ministry where there's an actual minister trying to connect Christian men with the same values of chastity, of living by 1 Corinthians chapter 7, of living by not having sex. And again, a lot of us were told these things. A lot of us have not done the work of meditating and asking, you know what, is it really realistic for me to be with a woman for 2 years and not have any sex? The answer is no. But you don't say that, because in the church, to say that means you what? Sinner, not living for God. But when you are with a woman that you like, and vice versa, the body gets aroused, especially when you're at your sexual market peak of age 21 through 40. Now, as you get older, it's not as aroused as it used to be, but before it was. And that's why men masturbate, and that's why women masturbate. So we don't even ask the question, are you masturbating? Because the reality is that both are. Couples are. They're getting some sexual urge off because of the hormones that are needed to have the orgasm. You need to have the orgasm. That's why God wanted us to get married young. He did not want us waiting till we're 40 to get married. That's why we messed up. But we can't get married because the girls were told don't get married until you got all your education. That means to 30 plus. The guys don't get their stuff together until they're 40. So both are not getting married, but they are having sex. And that's why babies are conceived. So the girl, she's like, I hate to say it, blown away. And it's so powerful because Kevin Samuels says these truths to her, and she looks in the camera with her little bushy hair, and she's like, oh, look at me, I'm pretty, look at me. I know women are going to like me, but when he asks those mental questions that have to make you mentally assent or think, it shows that she wants a rich man making $500,000 or more so she can be an ambassador and go over the country like the white girls. And that's the root of all this. The root of all this is all the white girls get this, and of course they get it. Their husbands are 400 years ahead of us. We built the United States and made those white people rich through slavery. But we're not caught up to them yet. And no telling when. So we got to accept that fact. So the black women have got to accept, I can't have this. And as Kevin Samuels said in his last video before he died, in the black church that I grew up in, the Baptist church, Pentecostal Kojic church, women were taught to get married early, and we're taught to build relationships. We're taught to build. And what that means is we're taught that we must work together. Whereas today the women are taught, no, I want to get him when he's finished doing all his building and ride on his coattails and benefit off of him. And Kevin's saying that is BS, and it is. It won't work. If I have to, if I can't, I want a woman that I could have built with. I wish I could have had a woman that we could have built a powerful family and education. I would have probably not made as many mistakes in my life as I made. But now that I have gotten to this place in my life, you got to come with something on your own. I will not date somebody who has nothing, and I have done all this. I had an ex-girlfriend named Mary Ann Tiger, and she was a girl who, and I put her name out there, but this is a true statement, so everything I'm saying is true. A girl I met when I was going to Victory, Tulsa, which is a church in Atlanta, Georgia, under Pastor Billy Joe Daughtery. And I was a Rhema Bible School graduate from Rhema Bible Training College, which had Rhema Bible Church. Rhema Bible Church was a church affiliated with Rhema Bible Training Center, which is great, but I didn't feel the vibe with Pastor Hagan due to going to a black church up until I went to Rhema. And it was my first experience leaving the black church of Impact Church, Jacksonville, Florida, Bethel Baptist, Jacksonville, Florida, Kojic churches with black ministers, to go to this white pastor, white ministry that taught in a whole different way, wasn't a preacher, was more of I read a script off a piece of paper, and my sermon is reading. I'm looking down 90% of the time, reading my sermon, instead of it coming from the heart. Like right now, everything I'm saying comes from my heart. I'm not looking at a piece of paper. That's the kind of pastors that I was under, because they meditate and meditate and meditate, and it gets to their mind, aka their heart, and they can pull out from their mind their thoughts. That's what I was used to. And Victory had that with Pastor Billy Joe Daughtery versus Pastor Hagan, and I found more likability with Victory. Plus, there were also more black women that went to Victory, and I thought maybe I could find a girl out there. Well, as I was doing prayer, and they had a little prayer group there, a girl that came to the prayer group, who was a so-called missionary, named Mary Ann, came to the prayer group. And of course, from the outward appearance, pretty. Just like the girl that's on this show, except she was more biracial. I think she was 90% white, 10% black, so you get that little smidgen. But she kind of had that same kind of bushy hair that comes from mixing genetics, right? From white and black genetics mixing. And I, like any man, found her attractive, right? But I'm a poor dude going to Bible school in 2001 through 2004. I had not going to college and got my undergrad yet. So I knew I couldn't date her. Because why? We men already know, provide, right? We're to provide, provide, provide. And she was saying back then, I'm going to be a missionary. I'm going to go overseas and go around the world. And this girl did not go to college until maybe 8-9 years later. Remember, I met her in 2004. I think she didn't graduate from college until 2013. So 2004, she finally graduated from college in 2013 with a teaching degree. Wanted to be a nurse, but she didn't fell to the teaching. It was a backup plan, but she hates teaching. To this day, she doesn't teach at all. And she supposedly goes over to Africa and takes Bibles and books and maybe pulls out a sermon or two, but we don't know. Anybody can go to Africa and sound from America and they'll accept you. It's a big, we call it a orphanage ministry, orphanage tourism. A lot of orphanages make money by Christians going to Africa, specifically Africa. They don't want to go to Belarus, Ukraine, or where white people have them. When white people need them, it's always my beloved Africa. Well, we know why. The way it's been when we first were taken out to America in 1619. Benefit slavery, right? But that day is coming to an end. Hallelujah. Glory be to God. We are praying against that. God can't return until our people get their rightful place. And I'm talking Africans. So, about 16 years passed. I stopped. I'm struggling. I ended up having to leave Tulsa. I'm going to Oklahoma. I'm going to OU. I fight through there for 5 years, graduate. Then, after I graduated in 2009, no jobs. Finally, in 2011, I decided I'm moving to Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't want to come, but I said, you know what? I'm tired of fighting against the racism and prejudice. Whites don't want to give me an opportunity. They only see my color. They don't care. And I was a good-looking guy. I was 35 years old, but I probably looked like I was 25 due to my health. And that's the picture right there that you see on my avatar of me in 2011. I know I look a lot older now. It's 2022, so that's roughly 11 years ago. Is that picture you see right there on my screen? And I look pretty good, I have to say to myself. I don't have no gray hair like I got right now. I don't know, none on my beard, none on my head, none of that stuff. But that comes with age, right? I'm experiencing it now at 48. So for me, I hadn't talked to the girl in about, God, like I said, from 2003, 4, until she paid me online in 2016, no, 18, March of 2018. She did one of those, as Kevin Samuels would call it, hey, big head. Facebook does that. Women could just ping somebody and go, hey, big head. And what that does is that we call it sliding into my DMs. And what that means is a person slides into your DMs by quote unquote, you ain't talked to them in 10 years, you ain't talked to them in 15 years, and they think that you can go into a relationship when you haven't saw someone in 5, 10 plus years, not recognizing you have changed, they have changed, the man that you are, the woman that you are, you didn't build with that girl. If the right thing would have been get together back then and build together, not wait till you've achieved something and now try to reinvent or reignite a stupid flame that will never be the same. And so I tried to, reignite the flame with this girl, and stupidly I was wrong. It should have never happened because the woman that I met was a poor girl back in 2004 who had mom who had tragically did her wrong, died of cancer, sisters that were horrific to her, tragic relationship with her sisters, brothers too. Total of 8 siblings, but they're all different fathers, so they're half brothers and sisters. She's the baby of 8 children that her mother had. Her mother was the orphan, given up in the orphanage, and did not have her own parents on either side. So her mother didn't know her dad's side or her mom's side because mom said, F you, I'm taking the baby, I'm going to give it up to the orphanage so I can go live with my white man because her mom was white and and basically said, I'm doing me. So she gave her a child up because she wanted to go be with another man. So we'll never know who Marianne's mom was unless more people go on Ancestry.com and they will then put their information on Ancestry.com and they will quote unquote pull out the knowledge and thank God for Ancestry.com. My mother on my dead mom's side, she never knew who her father was. And I'm using Ancestry.com now to find second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, ninth cousins to see if maybe I can find out who my biological granddad was on my mother's side because that whole life, my mom lived a whole life and died at 49 back in 2001, never knowing her dad's side. And I tell you, I saw the tragic pain in her eyes as she would beg her mother to get that name and she would not give it to her. And my grandmother died in 2013, taking her to her grave. And I've asked myself, how evil, how vindictive that is. But women do that all the time. My grandmother's nobody different. She's like a lot of women out there, selfish. So in this situation, as I share my screen now, in this situation, this girl right here, last video just happened on Wednesday night. I was blown away because he had interviewed about maybe 5 girls that called in. And normally, like I said, he charges, if you call this, most of these image consultants can charge up to $1,000 an hour because, let's be real, the image consultants make money for executives. We call them for CEOs, for white people. White people use image consultants all the time in their world. For blacks, we're still way behind the curve. Remember, white people are 400 plus years ahead of us. They were our slave masters. They built this United States. We built it physically. They owned it or was the manager or master of our ancestors. And so they're ahead of us because they passed all that knowledge down to their kids, all the way to today. And we still haven't passed any knowledge up down to our kids to get us to the higher level that we need to be. And that's why this channel is here for our single men. So after this girl says that she is studying to be an ambassador, studying to get her PhD. She's in Washington, D.C., Chocolate City. She is from Seattle. She is a Christian. She wants to, quote unquote, live a life like all of us in the church were taught, no sex before marriage. But we also were taught something that I now disagree with after 23 years of being a Christian, that you got to date someone for 2 years. It's hard as heck to be with a woman in a relationship, a full-fledged committed relationship, for 3 months and not want to have sex versus fighting that urge for 2 years. Now I understand the truth about why the minister said that, because a lot of times the couples are lying, both are lying about their truths. They're not willing to go and talk about their past. They're not willing to go and talk about their issues. We're talking in the black church, women that are 35 to 40. That's a large segment of the population of black church. The black church fails in two ways. Number one, the 35 to 40-year-old women that have the kids that out of wedlock, and there are some that are divorced. That's a very tiny percent. We saw that on statistically by Kevin Samuels. Let me pull that up real quick so that I can actually show you, because I like to show you stats. So if it blows your mind, let's go to Instagram. We'll go to Kevin Samuels' Instagram page because he already put this up many months ago, and I hate to say it, we got to take Kevin Samuels' place. We're not going to let Kevin Samuels die, not continue to fight the fight that he started, because this is no joke. I'm sorry that my brother passed, and I'm asking God for wisdom on how we can prevent it from happening to us. Like I said in my last blog, I disagree. Yeah, that's the video. You can watch the full video that happened last night. Due to copyright laws, I cannot play this on YouTube, so we have to say you got to go to Instagram and watch it. But I watched it, about 15 minutes long, 25,000 comments already on it, and it just came out last a couple days ago. 1.2 million people have watched it already. Already. Of course, because he just passed away, it automatically makes it very valuable, right? It makes his last, anything that you do as your last video, that becomes your standard, right? That becomes what makes you immortal, right? So here down here is the statistic. Let's zoom in on this picture. Let me update this. Update Chrome. I got to relaunch it. All right, we're gonna cancel. I'm gonna just zoom in. All right. I think you can see a good spot here. Okay. Two different censuses. One's the United States Census on the right. The other one is in the middle. Two standards: the black woman versus all women in the United States. For the black woman, they break down 5 different categories: never married in the green, currently married, which is in the quote-unquote brown, separated, going through that 2-year divorce process, which are laws the government forces you to do if the woman files for divorce. Widowed, man passes. Widowed, man passes. And then divorced. So we're going to go from the colors. The highest is in the green. For black women, it's 48% never married out of their whole lifetime. 48% of black women will never be married. That's a heck of a number. That's almost 1 out of 2. 50% is 1 out of 2. So that's literally almost 1 out of 2 black women. When I look at 2 black women, I'm saying that'll be married, that one. That's a big problem. Almost half of black women will never be married. That's a problem in their lifetime. Okay. The next one, look at white, look at all women, all the races. All other races of United States women, 31%. It's a lot lower. A lot lower. So there's people of other races that won't be married too, right? But it's at 31%. Our numbers should be 31%. We should have more women and black men currently married. Look at the numbers for currently married. 26%. Look at all women, 46%. We should be equal to all women. Our currently married category should be bigger, a lot bigger in brown. Separated. Okay, they put 4% for black women. You can see that gray on the all women. It doesn't show that, but it looks a lot smaller. So I'm going to say 2%. So that means those in that 2-year process of divorce. I have a brother who, unfortunately, wife filed for divorce back in 2019. It went through the total, I hate to say it, tragic experience. They get together. It seemed so great at the wedding in 2013. I'm at the wedding, and they're doing the candle, and they're putting the sand in the candle. My grandfather, my mama's dad's side was there. My grandmother, my mom's side was there. This before they passed away. And I was really happy because I always wanted to get married and have my grandparents there. And unfortunately, that did not happen to me. But what was interesting was Damien, that's my brother, and Tamika, that's the girl he was married to. They were acting as if their marriage was, great. They're happy. It seemed great. It's a wedding. But all the family was kind of surprised because Damien and Tamika had not been in a relationship where she would go over Damien's family. And I learned something very valuable with a lot of women. This is why I say the control thing is the big problem. Damien did everything with her side, and her family was tiny. He'd go over her dad's house, her mom's house, but she would never come over Damien's family because my mother unfortunately died 20 years ago in 2001, but we have aunts. And so Damien's ex-wife would go over Damien's mother's side, but due to some issues between my mother's sisters and brothers, Damien and I are close to them. But on dad's side, and due to our dad's actions, we're not close to our dad, but we are close to our dad's family. So even though our dad was a rolling stone and did all the evil things that and turned his back on us, it didn't mean that my granddad, which is my dad's father, turned his back on us. Matter of fact, our granddad, John Odell Howie Sr., loved us despite for what our dad did, to the point where I think that's why God blessed him to live to 102, because he loved his children. He hated the sin that his kids did, but he loved the grandkids and the products that came through. And due to my father, the sad decisions to have children with different women and not take care of them, I have about 8 brothers and sisters out there that I'm related to by my father's DNA that I don't even spend time with. And it's really difficult because here I am having a blog and making a blog and ministering, and I'm doing things around the United States and the world. And I got to have brothers and sisters with the same father DNA, and a father down in Orlando hiding from the government because all of his kids he's made from the different women he's been with, he can't face them because he knows a failure, but he says he's now in a pastorate position at a church ministering to Christians. See how hypocritical that is? That's so hypocritical. And that's why we got to be careful when we're living for God to live right, because if we don't, it can open up doors to death. And that's why I'm taking this time to look at my life in the aspect of studying Kevin Samuels, because I think, like my father, he will be judged. He ain't been judged yet, but death's coming to him because Satan is a mother sucker, man. So then look at widowed, only 8%. That's a small number, bruh. And then divorced, 13%. So 13% of our black women are divorced, meaning they filed for divorce. 26% are currently married. So that says half of the currently black women are going to be divorced. That's that. Look at that. But I've heard a statistic where 80% of our currently married women will be divorced. So that right there, that's not on my show. But then look at the statistics that they have for the U.S. Census. And it's over here to the right. You click on it, and it says click to zoom. And black women are more likely to be married than white women until 1970. And then, now you see what changed. Look at that. Black women were below white women from 1890 to 1960. And that is all Jim Crow segregation. Remember, 1890 was when black men got into Congress, and that's when white men changed the laws and put in Jim Crow segregation to fight us because we had just fought and died in the Civil War for us when getting the right to no long to have our freedom and not be slaves. And this, remember, this is all from, remember, we got here in 1619. So you can say 1619 all the way to 1960. We were married, going through the hell of slavery, going through the hell of being separated, breeding, used as cattle, right? And then I like what he says. It's 2022, but some are still using 1980s talking points. Facts are stubborn things. College degrees do not equal income. 54% of blacks are single and childless. 54% of blacks are single. I'm one of those. I'm single and I'm childless. Thank God. Hallelujah. So when you get the statistics, that hits hard because the women, as you can see from this graph, in 1970, right after civil rights, I'm born in 74. Look what happened to the black women, which are in the red. The white women actually went down. They actually were doing better. They were staying with their man from 1970 to 2000. They were getting married. Now it's getting worse for white women. Now divorce is happening in 2010, and soon we're going to have the 2020 statistics up here, and we'll see the last decade and how it's impacted, all from the United States Census. So what it's going to be like in 2030, 2040, 2050? Well, I think the numbers of black women will still go up. Right now, we're 25% divorced or never married, versus at this time for white women, only about 7% will never be married. Whereas for black women, it's 25%. 25%. But you saw earlier in the previous statistic, 48% will never be married versus 31. So, but we got to find out what is the generation, what are the years? Is it from 1890 or is it from like the last 10 years? So on and so on. So, in the episode, like I said, the last one right here, you can look at her and you can see the young, as you would expect, 25-year-old woman who didn't have a father that she said was outstanding. Remember, her father, she said, and she actually added this, she said her father was a stay-at-home father. That's sad. Men are not supposed to be stay-at-home. Men are supposed to work. So what does that do to the daughter? It F's her up because it looks like mom made all the money. So now if you're a daughter and your mom outshines your father, who are you going to want to follow? You're going to follow your mom. That means that all men, you're going to look down on them because your dad, you look down on your dad. But just imagine if your dad isn't there, you look down on him double. You look down on him for not being there and being responsible. So it's really important for us men to be responsible, but remember what men are doing. We want to just be in the vagina. We want to squirt and we want to have a baby with that girl because we want a pretty baby. And it's much more serious than having a pretty baby. It's the life of that baby being 18 and what that child's going to do at 21 and what that child's going to do at 31 and 41. And that's the stuff we have to think about now before we even ejaculate in a woman's vagina. And that's why singles ministers like me are here. Hallelujah. So basically, at the end of this conversation, he basically, I felt, has some anger toward God. And this is what I think opened the door to Kevin Samuel's death. You have to forgive God despite all of the things that he let you go through. And one of the things I will have to admit and state, I've had anger with God. I did not like some of the things I've experienced in life. Being in Oklahoma, treated racist by racists, going through the things I've had to go through in Georgia, military life experiences, things like that. But you got to come to a full healing. And God is merciful. God will forgive you, but you have to ask him for forgiveness. I think he was angry at God because he had been in the church. He had been a singles minister. He had been living trying to live right. He was a phenomenal, you know, student, chemical engineering degree, going to be a PhD. Then cancer hits. First tragedy, right? Doesn't get the chemical degree, but then he gets back up. Doesn't get the PhD. Then he gets back up, and why that's important. I got a friend named Lewis Jackson who struggled through OU, and he was and became a chemical PhD and works for like Exxon and makes $100,000 a year, right? And he been married three or has three kids. He has at least five kids with three different women. And I watched him go through that experience when I was a student at OU from 2004 to 2009. And I mean, I saw God bless him. He used in all kind of ways. There was always another woman available to him. No matter what, there was always another woman. And God did not stop those women. And those women did not stop opening their legs. And all the women opened their legs, and all the women got pregnant because he used the gift of gab, and he mentally got them the same way women are gotten today. And as a single man, you see it, and you say, man, and thank God I didn't manipulate women and go and because I could easily do it. My father does it. I know men that do it. They can manipulate women and get anything they want. But see, they're gonna get judged because God cannot lie. His word does not fail. It forces you. It forces you to think about your actions. So like I said, I think that he, referring to Kevin Samuels, got mad because the first woman he was with, she divorced him. They had a child. You know the issues that's going to happen between divorced couples. You know the anger that the woman comes at you because remember, women they can say all they can say all they want to say, but they can say all that they want to say, but the tragedy about it is that uh, the tragedy about it is, God doesn't want divorce, but you can't force a woman to study her word. You can't force a man to study her word. You can't force them to go together. I'm going to tell you as I finish this blog a story that I'm going to apply to future relationships because that's why I do this blog. It's not just to talk about single relationships as in what others do, but what you've done because I want my future protect my prospective date, my prospective girl to watch these videos to hear my thoughts. And if she's not willing to watch my videos and listen to my thoughts, then she's not willing to be my girlfriend. Because to walk together, Paul said, Apostle Paul, you must be in agreement, which means you need to understand how I think on every level. And we can talk. We're grown-ups. We're educated. We know how to articulate. Therefore, we have the ability to explain. And for those that are 40 and 40 plus or 35 plus who don't know how to articulate, they're in trouble. They're done. They're not going to succeed. And so the girl I was dating, her name I said earlier, named Marianne. She, as I said earlier, when I met her, saw a lot of pain, a lot of sadness. And when you go to church, you see a lot of pain, a lot of women and men that are broken. That's what draws us to God. I mean, let's not lie. What draws us to God is when we're in tragedy, when we're going through, when we're having hell of pain, that Jesus Christ is there. That's what draws us. That's what makes us say, yes, Lord. If I did not have the pain and sadness of what I went through in my 90s, the 1990s, I know God would not have been able to get me until I was 35. If everything had worked out the way I wanted and I had no problems, Jesus Christ would have been the last thing on my mind. It would have been me accomplishing all these goals. becoming Lieutenant Colonel Howard, United States Army, ROTC commander, doing all the stuff that I wanted to do when I was 18, accomplishing all those goals, wife, kids, everything. But when you have tragedy, that's what brings you to your knees. And for a lot of people that are atheists, they don't have nothing to go to. But for some of us, a Christian might come across our path and say God has a plan for your life. Or we might do that sinner's prayer and he really comes and meets us. God really comes. Or we hear a CD or a song and God really shows up. And we find out, oh my God, God is very much real. And it transforms our whole life. And I praise God that's what happened to me. But Marianne was a beautiful girl. I was very much attracted to her. I know her in 2001. I thought maybe she had changed in 2018, 7 years later, 17 years later. She had changed. She had met a guy at Burundi, got married, brought him over to America, gave him a green card, he became a U.S. citizen. So right then and there, she was done. The moment you marry somebody, you're off limits, right? Because you're supposed to be with that person the rest of your life. But guess what? He left her. So right then and there, you start to see quickly, you start to see, oh, people say, let's get married, but they are not, and I repeat, not. They repeat, are not. Had to kill this roach. Bye bye, Mr. Roach. You're going to die. Sorry. Yeah, Mr. Roach. Bye bye. Yeah. Don't worry, Roach, you'll die. And set aside. And so basically, as I was just saying, the relationship only lasted about 7 months. But it was a fast 7 months because at 44 years old, as Kevin Samuels said, when you meet a girl, you don't got time to date 2 years to find out if she's the one. It may take you a year to learn about the financial habits of the girl and your financial habits. And unfortunately, due to the failures of the church, singles ministers and pastors, senior pastors, I blame both, they don't get books that I got on marriage. They don't have them do the therapy book. We call it the marriage counseling workbook. Every couple, every man should get the marriage therapy counseling workbook. Every person that says they want to be married, and let me put it up on my screen. I don't want to just tell you because this is the book I got, but it's by a white person, a white licensed marital therapist. Every couple, hey baby girl, should get this book. All right, good to see you. Good to see you. Back. I'm moving. Every couple should get the marriage therapist workbook. Why? Because you need to do the homework yourself and ask these questions, which I'm still working on that book. It's about 300 pages. It covers a lot of areas. Finances, sex, it covers all these areas. And what it does is it opens up outstanding conversations for conversations on the phone. And now that we work and live in the YouTube world, this is the book I'm talking about. The Marriage Counseling Workbook. And it's been out for a long time. $14 on Amazon. I bought my ex-girlfriend Marianne one, and I bought one. We never ever got together to read it. But I led in that relationship because in my previous relationship with Shay, I was with her for about 6 years, and I never made her do it because again, me and all the leaders, and she's the follower, the way God made it. and she never read it either. But she also wasn't a Christian, and I didn't really realize it. So Emily Cook is a person that came out with this in 2018. So I bought this when I started dating Marianne, which was August of 2018. The same year I bought this book, and it had exercises, counseling exercises, and it breaks down 8 steps to having a strong marriage. I was trying my best as a man. See, I purchased it July 31, 2018, to make sure y'all see I'm telling the truth. And when I purchased that, 2 of them, matter of fact, I had one of them be sent to her, and I had the other. We never ever did it. Now this is weird because I found out in 2000, March 2020, that Marianne was trying to steal a girl's husband, because the girl contacted me on Facebook Messenger. Her name is Sarah Mininyar. She contacted me on Facebook. I can actually show you the message. Let me show you, because I don't want to lie. I think this is my life, so talk about my life in my life. But this is for my future girlfriend. This is for anyone that I date, to help let people know honesty is important in relationships, and not to do stuff trifling. But it confirms what Kevin Samuels had been talking about, and that is that guys and girls have a backup plan, right? And they have backup girls, backup boyfriend. If it ain't you, they got another person waiting in the wings, and that is wrong. So her name is Sarah B. Mininyar. Now I never met this girl except on Facebook. And so here is the communication of her pinging me back in 2021, January. First time she pinged me was in January, but she didn't have the courage to contact me again until March. But she pinged me to say hi, because for some reason I accept everybody as my friend on Facebook, right? I got 5,000 friends. Why? It's a ministry. So what do we do on Facebook is we go and we look, and I'm trying to go to Africa. I'm trying to meet people all around the world. I want to meet people, right? Well, somehow Sarah is a friend of mine on Facebook, not in real life, but just on Facebook. And Marianne, of course, is a friend of mine on Facebook because we're dating, and of course I add her as a friend. She pings me and she tells me, "How you doing?" I go, "Great, how are you?" Then on March the 23rd, March the 17th of 2021, this is right after 19. Remember, 2019 was when we pretty much, our relationship ended. So all of 2020 we weren't talking, because 2000 March, excuse me, I said March 2019 is when our relationship ended. December of 2019 was when I went to visit her and see if we could make amends. And I had the chance of reading this book. She had a really dirty house, junky, full of all kind of crap. I pray that I bet it's still that way today. I'm talking, because she was supposedly going to Africa so many times she didn't have money to clean her own house. Now I'm sorry, but an adult keeps the house clean. And if you're going to Africa, you should have a clean house because you're going to Africa. But she had one dog, and then we had got another dog. And I'm sorry, them 2 dogs got to be miserable in that house, because when I say the word junkie, I'm saying every part of the carpet was destroyed because the dog's claws ripped the carpet up from the ground that you see nothing but the concrete. And it's on the first floor of a 2-bedroom apartment. And it smells like boo boo because the potty's all on the ground. Instead of the dogs going out and potty on the ground, or being trained to potty in one section of the house, they potty all across the house. So it's like from the bedroom, I mean, all the hall. I mean, just when I met her, it was like dating somebody from the ghetto. It was tragic. I mean, literally, I never dated anybody that kept their house that nasty. And I tried to let that go, and now I don't. That's why I state these things, because I think We need to be honest about how we keep our house, how we live, and how we act, right? So I talked to Sarah B. Meninyar, and she pings me out the blue. I don't know this lady at all. She pings me 2 years later. She says, "Do you know Marianne?" I go, "Yeah, she was my former girlfriend." I was honest. She's a good friend. Notice I put that out there. Now, why would I say she wasn't? I go, "How do you know her?" And then she goes, "Wow." Like, wow. Because it almost is a shock to her because she has a different idea of this woman. So now I'm getting a black woman talking about this white woman and in a different way. And then she puts a big paragraph. Let me zoom in so that you can see everything because I don't want to lie. This is all history, and I think it's very important as a man to be honest. Because guess what? Women do it about us. When we lie, y'all ladies go and talk about us behind our back. Well, here we talk about it verbally. We talk about it electronic. We be honest. So she goes, "She's not who you think she is." That's the first sentence she puts. She's not who you think she is. And I go, "Hmm." But then I think about how she lived in Oklahoma. I think about where she lived in Oklahoma. I thought about the really poor house, the poor apartment she stayed in, the poor car that could never be maintained, living in poverty, taking care of white people's kids as a so-called nanny, but making only $12 an hour, literally making 18,000 or 20,000 bucks a year. And she's a guy, a girl that has a teaching degree from Northeastern State, Oklahoma State, Tahlequah. And so the reason why is that she wants to be poor. It's not because she has to be, she chooses to be, right? And so I was getting mad because in our conversation in the beginning phase of our dating relationship, she wanted a man to take her around the world and take her on trips. She was bold in saying this, to go do things and all that. But I said, what about working? And she was almost mad that she had to have a job. Like that was almost a repugnant thing. Now remember, she's a woman that's mom didn't have a career. All she did was make babies, and that's why her children are tragic. She has a brother that died of AIDS. Another woman, her older sister, tragic. A younger sister, tragic. You can go all through her life, and you can see none but tragedy. It's almost like you expect it. You expect it. So this is how people live, right? Everybody, we got people that live like this. And you would think that, okay, you're going to break the cycle, right? That's how I look at it. If my aunts, uncles, and them live this way, I'm going to be different. I'm going to break the cycle. And that's how I live my life. Well, that's not how she lived her life. So she goes, she's not who you think she is. I know her through my husband. Now, this is a woman who just got recently married to a man she was dating for 8 years while she was in the States going to school in Maryland to get degreed. And he lives in Sierra Leone, and he's a son of a chief. So he's going to be the king one day, right? He's a prince. He's going to be the king of a tribe. Because she tried dating him or having sex with him. I saw a text message from her to him right then and there. The moment a woman says, I saw her text messages to him, and she even texted me, that right there is heavy. If a woman's going to lie on another woman, she's going to have to, you know, you're going to catch her when you ask her for evidence. So what did I do? Wow, really? Tell me more. I'm now asking for evidence. And then she puts this long thing, which validates and goes with my memory. She went on a missed trip to my country, Sierra Leone. My father-in-law that I'm about to marry invited her and some other white guests, which is obvious, right? Because that's what the tribes do. It's called, tribal or orphanage tourism. She started doing some evil shit. Then she goes, that lady is mentally ill. Now, for a woman to say another woman's ill, that is a very profound statement. All right, that woman is mentally ill. Let's be real about that. That woman is mentally ill. You don't say stuff like that unless you got some proof. I didn't think Marianne was mentally ill. There were things that I liked about her. I liked her so-called, I thought, Christian faith. But I didn't live in the same city. I didn't watch her every day. That's why you don't date someone across the states. You date someone in your same town. You got to watch them in your environment. You got to have your friends watch them. Their friends watch you. Everybody watches each other. That's how you can catch crap. So here's what she says. That lady's mentally ill. She had the guts to text my phone on my wedding night, cursing out my husband and telling me my husband is a cheater. So now she's calling this woman who had been living in the United States, flown back to Sierra Leone, married a man. She calls that woman on the wedding night to get the woman mad and here's more of this, and say he cheated. Probably did. This is the problem. He probably did. But for her to do the thing that women that are mistresses do, because mistresses do this, they're the ones that will go and they will date your wife and they'll come to you and say, I got your wife, and you feel like a cuckold, right? Because that man has been having sex with your wife or that woman's been having sex with your husband, right? And people do this, but to do it on a wedding night. Now, this was December 2020. Now, why is this important? Because in December 2019, when I had went to visit, she had just came back from Sierra Leone in October, a month earlier. That's when she started dating this guy or trying to get him. And then she said, I'm going back 2 months later. So she's working real, real hard to raise money to go back so she can get this penis so that she can marry. It's all about marriage. It wasn't about right or wrong. It was about her getting married. You think God's going to bless that relationship? You think God's going to bless that with a child? You can't do the things wrong and expect God's blessing. It's got to be right. So she says, this is Sarah now, the woman that sent this to me. After Marianne does make this statement, had been going to Africa for 20 years on these little 1 week orphanage tourism trips, not sanctioned by her church, not sanctioned by her church has been a member of for 20 years, or a pastor. There's nobody watching her. There's nobody covering her. There's nobody judging her. It's all her way of doing it, how she want to do it, where she wants and when she wants. I wonder why. So she says she has the guts to text my phone on a wedding night, cursing my husband out, telling my husband's a cheater, probably true, and promised her they're going to get married. So now comes a manipulation. She's trying to act like she's a victim. She's saying that now this man is basically two-timing us. He's married you, but he also tried to marry me. Now, I never really met the guy to have a conversation with him. I do look forward to meeting him, but now it's obsolete because she's, but I would like to verify that Sarah's conversation is true. So she said that she slept with her husband and traveled with him. So they've been having sex. Now, remember, when I was dating Marianne, she would tell me she didn't want to have sex till she got married. So this is why this hits hard with this video, because a woman like the girl that I showed you on Kevin Samuels, this is how Marianne was trying to act like. She was trying to act like this black girl right here that's looking all young and, I'm going to wait 2 years before I have sex. BS. No, she had sex with people. It's just that she felt guilty about it, and now she's trying to act like, oh, I'm not going to do it. But women can choose when they can have sex. Remember, men have the power of who they marry. Women have the power of who they have sex with, right? Right. So then she says she was so desperate, crying to this black woman, Sarah, on the phone. They're on their wedding night where they're consummating their marriage. She says she spent a lot of money on her husband. I bet she did. That's the why she was doing all the, working all those hours, living, having a crappy house, having a crappy apartment, keep her dogs not being taken care of, and it made sense because when I broke up with her in March of 2019, all this was when it started. And notice what she said. Next sentence, she goes, "I live in the United States, Maryland. My husband is back home in Sierra Leone. This has been going on behind my back since 2019. This started October of 2019 after I broke up with her in March. And I'm so glad I did because she was going back and forth to Africa and she'll be cheating on me. Because here I am, I'm letting her go back to Africa. I'm thinking, oh, that's a holy woman of God. But no, she going and having sex with men in Africa, then coming back to me and trying to get with me. She's playing the field. And this is what I say is wrong. And as a singles minister, I'm calling this crap out because this is a woman who professed to be living right for Christ. To be living right for Christ. Marianne, you were wrong. And you're paying for this. Mark the Holy Ghost's words. You're paying for this. Because this stuff don't stop. Don't stop. It gets deeper, guys. I saw the messages and spoke to her, even told her I was going to tell you, Henry, about her shity attitude. Woo! Now, this lady, Sarah's like, I know you dating Henry because I'm Henry's friend. I don't know Henry, but I know him by his post on Facebook. And I seen the pictures of you and Henry on his Facebook page, which the way it should be. It's the way it should be. And so she's like, I'm going to tell Henry. Right? And she begged her it was over, blah, 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 right? Now notice this. After Sarah said, I'm going to tell Henry, she tried to say, quote unquote, it's over, it's over, it's over. I went past December, went back to Sierra Leone, December 2020 for my wedding, and she popped up out of nowhere. Now remember, Sarah talked to Marianne earlier in December 2020, earlier in 2020, but now December 2020 having an actual wedding. We're talking about an African wedding, and she pops up out of nowhere out to stop the wedding. Now this time I had stopped talking to Marianne. I was hurt. I was crying. I was in a lot of pain. I spent a lot of time, a lot of hours in prayer. I did a lot of blogs. I really, really was angry at God because I like, Lord, why did you let this girl ping me only for me now to find out that she's an evil woman? And you didn't speak to me at all about it. He didn't say a word. He didn't say crap. I mean, I'm paying $5,000 in credit card fees for plane flights to go all the way to Tulsa and back. I was excited to go back. But when I introduced her to my late spiritual mom, Linda Swain, she said, I don't like her. Now, of course, it probably is because of interracial. She not expect me to be with the quote unquote white woman. You live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. White people and black people don't mix. It goes back to 1921. So I get that part. But but there was a lot more to what Linda said. She did have a lot of issues in her, and I saw in her heart. And this only confirms what Linda said. And of course, we did not. I'm glad we broke up, but it was still hurt because you got to think about this. When I first met her, I paid $1,000 for her to come to Atlanta and stay in a hotel because I didn't want her to come to my house. She would never come to Atlanta because she's so dirt poor she can't even go anywhere around the country. She can't even go home to see her mom or her mom's grave or to go and see her sisters and brothers on a consistent yearly basis. She's poor because she chooses to be poor, not because she has to. It's her choice. So I have not, again her. I'm not sure what that means. I have not again her. I'm not saying. I guess you're saying I have not talked again. Talked again to her. My in-laws already, which means the husband, the father of the groom, dealt with her. Now I don't know. And they said they told her church leaders, really? Now that's at Victory Church, Tulsa. Remember, she goes to that church, but she ain't under any authority at that church. She's not on staff for that church. She never will be. She's tried to be on staff at Victory many years. When I first met her back again in 2018, she kept saying that she wanted to be on staff at Victory Christian School. And every single time the opportunity comes, she give up a reason why she can't do it. Yeah, I understand why now. She said, basically, my in-laws already dealt with her and told the church leaders. I gave her a piece of me, meaning I blessed her. She says, the day I'ma see her, it's heavy. She'll know the true me, meaning that, hey, if I see this woman, I'm gonna hit her. Now here's what gets real interesting, because it's gonna blow you away. The girl Sarah married the guy that Marianne said that she was having sex with. He married her. So this 8-year relationship ended in consummation. Will it last? I don't know. Because I instantly asked the typical question that a minister would ask. What about your husband? What did he say to those accusations? Did he cheat? What does your spirit and the Holy Spirit say to you? Instantly, when you hear me see that, she knows I'm a Christian. She goes, good question. Oh, of course it is. Holy Spirit gave that to me. She goes, the first message I saw was on my husband's Facebook Messenger, which I'm showing you right now because she has his account. Look at all this. That time he was my fiance for 8 years, planning our wedding. Now that's crazy. You shouldn't be a fiance for 8 years. Number one, that's ridiculous. You know, it's 2 years or whatever, but 8 years? Come on. That right there is probably the reason why the dude cheated. Because you don't be a relationship for 8 years. This brings up the whole argument of this video here. You don't get in a relationship for 8 years. If you're in a relationship, you need to be in a relationship and be married minimum of a year after you date. That's why you have your stuff together. If you're going to build, and that's the way it should be. But 8 years, that's a marriage in right there. That's a marriage and a divorce in 8 years, right? Planning our wedding. For 8 years, I never ever had any issue cheating with him or so off. He left all the messages like I do. We leave it on our messenger, right? And she says, I read everything. You know a woman would. You know a woman would. I read everything that she basically said. And she was a woman pushing hard. And of course, women are always going to push hard more than men, right? Here's why. She says, I love him. Now, remember, I met her in 2018. We dated in 2019. They started talking October 2019 and to basically December 2020 when he got married. So basically, and she only sees him once or twice a year. It's not a relationship where you're in the same city. You're in different countries. You can't even afford the doggone phone calls because she was so poor she don't have internet. She don't have WhatsApp. I mean, this is a poor white woman, not even middle class, by her own choice. So how can you love somebody you only see maybe twice a year because it takes her about 6 months to raise the money to pay for the 4 flights to go back and forth to Africa on the low economy and not even first class? See my point? She loves him. No, it's not true. She basically wants to be around somebody wealthy. She loves the way he dresses, wealth. The way he sings, wealth. She's really in love with him, bull. My husband, this is her personal opinion. I don't believe it's true. Thanks, but you know, he told Marianne, thanks, but you know I have a fiance, and everyone knows her. Of course, they've been together 8 years, and we're getting married next year. Again, this was 2019. These were her words. Listen to this. Tell me you think this is a lie. But you don't know what she's doing behind your back in the United States. She might be dating someone too, because again, they've been dating for 8 years. He actually said my fiance. So that means that he actually proposed, and this was the fiance stage of the relationship. I don't know when she became fiance. I would assume that they dated for a couple years, and then she said, "Oh," he said, "Will you marry me?" She said, "I do," and it took her this many years to get those degrees. That's why it's taking forever. Okay, but think about the statement that a woman would say, or a man. Men do it all the time. Women do it all the time. You don't know what she's doing behind your back in the States. She might be dating someone and she pretending it to you. We can do the same. Ooh, that's hard. We can do the same. She's throwing out what she could be doing. Then she assumes that she's doing it and says, we can do the same. By the way, I'm not saying my husband is perfect. Now, for her to put that sentence in there, meaning I'm not saying my husband didn't cheat, because he did. And I don't know if they traveled or sex. Oh, you do. You do. Your husband, you know. You got enough for Holy Spirit knowledge to know that. All right? And saying God knows all is a way we Christian people like to throw that out. But God knows all don't mean crap. It's what you need to know. God is knowing all. He's in heaven. You're in earth. You know what it is in earth so you can live your life right. But I will not leave my husband. This is where the catch comes. But I will not leave my husband because this, remember, husband is 25. Keyword, she's 25. Gotta make sure you put age in there. Marianne is 39 at the time. 39-year-old cougar messing with a 25-year-old boy. See the power that that woman has over that boy? See the ignorance that that boy has? Lots of it. But I will not leave my husband because of the old fool. Nah. I trust my husband in the fact that she knows about me and that she's pushing, still pushing, and have the guts to text me directly was too much. Oh yeah. I mean, to me, it blows me away because how can a woman that says and this is a woman I met in Oklahoma. How can a woman that I met when I went to Oklahoma after meeting her in 2003 at a Victory Tulsa, Pastor Billy Joe Daughtery and Sharon Daughtery, and their prayer school group with Amy Arney and other women that came to prayer. And we all are Bible school students. We all are praying and asking God for God's perfect will. Some want to be missionaries. Some want to be pastors. Some want to be evangelists. Some believe they're prophets and teachers called to the work of the ministry, right, for the edification of the body of Christ till we all come into the unity of faith. Knowledge of the Son of Man. We meditate in that word, right? We believe in it. To get to the point 16, 17 years later, she would literally try to steal a man from another woman. And when that woman marries the man that she wants, those are call and text message on their wedding night to say the man is cheating and he's a cheater in order to break up the newly consummated marriage so that she can get the man. What kind of thing is that? How tragic that is. That is tremendous. That hurts God's heart so much. But here's the catch. That makes Satan glad because Satan now goes to God and says, see, and she ain't living like, and guess what God has to do? You're right, Satan. And Satan says, I have the right to judge her because she went over into my realm. She played in this evil game. She knows the truth of God's word. She goes to church on the week. She goes to church yearly, monthly. She's been going to church since she was in Teen Mania at 18 years old under Pastor Ron Luce in Dallas, Texas, or Roberts. She's a saint. She's a person that's supposed to be an elder, 39-year-old elder of God, a minister. You should know the truth, and it should have made you free, not to take somebody that's 15 years your junior. But that's the power that, unfortunately, our women are because they're lonely. They're lonely, and they don't want to change. If she did the right thing by spending time in this marital workbook and worked on those areas, she would have been able to find a man that would have loved her because she would have worked on how she communicates and had understanding of her flaws and weaknesses so that she could be able to minister to the man or men in her life. She would have had standards. And that first standard would have been, I'm never, ever going to go after another woman's man. The moment I find out that you got a relationship with a person, you're over. It's done. But see, what's interesting about that experience is that when I first met her in her world, because she came to my world and she played the role of being a Christian, all that, because she came to Atlanta, never been here before, and I did a carte blanche. Hey, I took her out to see Dr. King's. I took her down. I mean, I spent literally about $2,000 on a credit card, which I'm still paying on right now, to give her a wonderful time. But when I went to her world, and I saw her junky house, and I saw her lack of money that could not even have a TV that worked. You know what my heart did? It went online and bought stuff for her because I cared. And that was the most dumbest thing in the whole wide world. I'll never do that again. Thank you, Marianne, for teaching me that. But the lesson learned is when you're a simp, like I was, you'll do simp crap. You'll sit back and try to save a girl when she don't need to be saved. She needs to die because she deserves it. She caused her own demise. You have a right and responsibility to your own life. And if you don't want to do the right things, then you deserve to fail. But if you do the right things, God will bless you. But a man can't make a woman, can't save a woman can't save a man. So I remember when I got there and we were going to church. We had a victory conference. And I made sure I took the trip to see her the week of the victory conference. Well, she had to work, obviously, she has a job. And of course, I'm coming on my vacation, right? So I was going to go to Victory Conference in the morning, and I would go to Victory Conference in the afternoon. Normally, conferences are the same old people, John Bevere and a couple other people that I don't know, but it pretty much is Victory's way of bringing in cash flow compared to Rhema, which has their conferences in July, which is the same people too, but it's a different crowd. Rhema's more, white Southern Gospel Baptist style, and Victory is more non-denominational, youth-oriented, black, white. They really push interracial type of ministry, which is why I went to Victory. Whereas that's not pushed at Rhema, and that's obvious historically. So the the aspect of the situation was we're coming out of church one day and we're actually going to go get something to eat at a restaurant. I think it was called Sizzler or something like that, like a Outback or a steakhouse. And I'm taking her in my car because I'm blessed. I come to Tulsa. I rent my cars, right? I got AT&T. They give me a phenomenal discount, and I can rent a car. So I rent me a nice little truck, a beautiful Nissan Titan truck, 4x4, because I was gonna take her to Lake Tenkiller, which is a beautiful lake in Oklahoma, to treat her to a weekend. Obviously, I knew sex had to happen. You can't have a true relationship without sex, even though I know as a singles minister, we say all the stuff about, well, we're going to quote unquote not have sex. Man, a woman doesn't bond with you unless you're having sex. That's why what you see this girl do was based upon what? She had sex with this dude. She liked the way he sung. She liked the way he dressed. She liked what he did and the position and power she had. And then she instantly says, I'm in love with this guy. No, she wasn't in love. She was in lust with his power. But the sex made her go what? Made her go crazy to the point that she ends up literally flying back to the wedding night of him marrying somebody else, trying to do a movie, Hollywood movie, thinking that she gonna break up the marriage the moment at the wedding. Like her presence gonna stop the wedding in Africa. Like this white woman's gonna come in and make the whole world stop. Can you believe that crap? That's exactly right. And so who would think that way? Somebody who's mentally ill. So it kind of confirmed what the lady said when she said, you don't know her. She's mentally ill. So it gets deeper than that. Now she goes, for my husband, I dealt with him in my own way. And trust me, he will not try such nonsense again. Now this 25-year-old Sarah talking this BS. No, it's going to happen again. Because number one, I think she's still in Maryland. I think he's still in Sierra Leone. I don't think she moved back. I think you click on her link and you look where she's at, you can find out where she's at. So let me go over here and open up a new link and look. And I have strong positive feelings that she went to Trinity Washington University, and she lives in Washington, D.C. So right then and there, that's a no-go. You live in Washington, D.C. If you're so in love and so happy to be married, you must go back home with your husband. Let me stop. You don't live 500 miles away, much less 5,000 miles away. You don't do that. Okay? Let's open the door up to affairs. Common sense. Men need orgasms. They need to be inside your vagina. You need their penis. That's just common sense. Stop. So I'm sorry to my dog. Forgive me. So after that experience, he goes, anyway, you don't have to say anything. I didn't say nothing. I kind of been quiet. And then I know she's your friend. You're trying to be loyal. Well, she didn't know that I, stopped talking to her for a long time, and that I was hurt by what was going on, and I was mad that God put me in this situation because I've spent a lot of money, and in my humble opinion, okay, that I felt God just. I'm sorry, I got to get back to work. Let me get back to finishing this. Hello, I'm at work now. Work just started. It's 10 o'clock. All right. So some of us in this, and we've been talking for about an hour and 51 minutes that time. So from there, thank you guys for joining and those that really join. I'm just having a storyline about my past, about my life, and just what I've experienced in relationships, and why it's so important to understand why it's really important to be honest with people and be truthful. So this is, like I said, happened in 2021, so it's very old. So basically, I wrote a reply back. Thank you for letting me know. My spirit says that you're telling me the truth to Sarah. I pray for your marriage, Sarah, and your now husband, and that both you get yearly counseling by qualified people to help you through the beginning phases and the stages of your marriages. Because as a pastor, I've seen men repeatedly cheat and not take responsibility for their actions to and in a relationship. Of course, I've seen men and women. They both cheat. It's not just only men, it's both. But I've seen many weak and evil church women chase after men because they want to get married so bad. Eventually, a couple divorces and it hurts the children. And that's the most important people. I think that Marianne's also to blame for actions that Yahweh judge all, Yahweh for to the Lord God Almighty. I think that Marianne's trying to get married, and I'm shocked at her behavior because this was a shocking moment. But again, I didn't know Marianne. Remember, I had met her after 16-year absence because we went on our different ways, and because of LinkedIn and Facebook, you get the Facebook messenger, hey, big head, text, and that kind of incites or opens up the conversation. I'll pray for you all. I'm glad that you're in the U.S. Has your husband relocated to be with you in Maryland? Are both of you together in holy matrimony? Great points, right? Because you got to be in the same city, especially the same country, same state. I mean, that's obvious. Well, the answer is that question is no, they're not together. So then she replies, my husband's not here. She'll be here soon. This is back in 2021. He still hasn't arrived in the United States. We had COVID. COVID could be there. So then here's what's interesting. That was in March the 19th, 2021. She pings me 4/28, 2021 at 6:35. And she goes, hello. After that long story about what happened to Marianne coming after her husband, she then says this. Sorry to bore or bother you. Did you know Marianne got married today? That's open. I'm like, what? This is my husband's friend, and they got married today. And she puts a crying emoji, a laughing emoji. Now I really understand what you said about how she's desperate. So she confirmed basically my sentence when I said I believe she's desperate. Exactly right. Because she just earlier, a month earlier, said that back 3 months earlier, she was trying to come to her wedding to destroy that wedding so she can get that man. and then 3 months later marries the man's best friend. This is, like I said, typical, what we call in America soaps stories where people do irrational things, totally irrational. So then they're in Liberia. So Liberia, Sierra Leone, are right next door to each other. I go, this is shocking, but I'm not surprised. How old is this man that she married? He looks younger than her. That's my question. I mean, you can see that by the body, right? Because age ages. She goes, I don't know what IKR stands for. Shocking to everyone too. He's 25 or 26 years. And then she puts a picture of him in the wedding party because, again, this is a wealthy tribe which has a big wedding party, right? So this is him in the wedding. So that means that Mary Ann was talking to two men at the same time. And so she wanted the prince, but she also talks with one of the prince's friends. And so she couldn't get the prince. She then goes with a friend, right? This him on my wedding day, one of my husband's groomsmen. Wow. I go, well, that's the same thing, her same cinema, and this is true. Her mom, remember I told you about the one that was an orphan, her mother? Her mom was married to a man 14 years younger than her and created Mary Ann. And it was tragic because that man who was the father of Mary Ann did not even come back and be in Mary Ann's life. Mary Ann doesn't have no relationship with her dad's side, other family, because her mom was just having sex with different men, making babies. And of course, the guys leave because they're not married to the woman, right? Because of the attitudes of women, right? My body, my choice, my life, my privacy, etc. A 40-year-old and a 26-year-old will have a hard time because he's just a kid and she's good at manipulating men. That's why I broke up with her. I saw the signs. But do you know she was married to a man from Burundi and that only lasted 10 months? And that is very true. She's chasing a man to get a kid from him. What's his name? I go, is he a grad lawyer, doctor, engineer? Because why? A lot of the men I meet in college that come from Africa, they're the top. They're the best of the best. They're the educated. And then, of course, she goes, oh, my God, I didn't know she was married before, but I did know she only that it lasted that early, meaning that she was married and only lasted 10 months. Wow, history repeating itself. She's too desperate for men. And she started laughing. She said, that young man has none of that career. He's still in college in Liberia, and she desperately went for him. They both never dated. Trust me. I left Liberia in January, and I was staying with the guy's family house with my husband. I think she went to get back at my husband by marrying his friend. But I feel sorry for that young guy. His name is Kevin Blow. So then I ended up looking him up and found out Kevin Blow had requested to be a friend on my out of my 5,000 friends, but I just always accept. You asked to be my friend, I accept your friendship. But I, of course, didn't talk to Kevin. So Kevin basically was looking at her because he was trying to get to America. And he was trying to find himself a girl that he can get with, that he can be able to have sex with, that he can be able to get to America, like the other guy from Burundi. And of course, yours truly, her was stupid and foolish, and again, get what you deserve. But it's for the first time in my life, I saw that in my life. So I've never had a situation that you hear in these stories where you meet somebody and you find out they're cheating on you. But this is tantamount to cheating within the new world because now you can be on internet using LinkedIn, using YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, and this stuff can happen because we're now a global connection. So basically, I kind of talked about that, and then she goes, real sad. Whatever I'm in the dark will come to light. Or basically, whatever is in the dark will come to light. We'll see how this ends. She doesn't speak, in American English. And then she sent me something about a celebration and a memory of a woman that died. Loving memory of Fanta. She must have died here back in November. Sorry to hear that. So that's the lesson I learned. And again, Kevin Samuel, if I look at her, you see some of her, Rebecca now. She calls herself Sarah or Rebecca. Both of those are biblical first names. And then she goes, You know, one more God's heart, epitome of God, and it's may your lights ignite the world. Happy birthday, long life, prosperity. All the things you're supposed to say as a Christian, right? All the things. But the bottom line is they're in the same city. They're having sex. Now here's the guy that was cheating on with Marianne. This is the guy right here. You can see there's a kiss at their wedding. Everybody's smiling, right? It's the same wedding that Marianne came to and tried to what? Break up, right? 8 years of being in a relationship, but they just get married, all right? And the sad part about it is it starts off with such a tragedy. It starts off with trust problems because the reality is there's trust problems. It's going to be a problem when you have to think about, does he have eyes for another woman? Remember, he hasn't come to America yet. He hasn't been indoctrinated with the American mindset. See, it's different over in Africa. If Jacksonville, Florida is 50 years behind New York, which we know it is, we can sincerely say that Africa is probably 100 years behind. Okay? They're not at the same level, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And I haven't been to Africa yet. I'm believing God to go. But I go down to Africa with the understanding that, hey, I'm not going to Africa expecting to be on the level of a New York, or LA, or a Houston, or a Dallas, or an Atlanta. But again, that's good because my expectations won't be hurt because I don't go there with those high expectations. But the sad part about it is in
Yes, I
this.
planned the child with him and everything because I felt bad, about how.
All right, so I'm not going to play that. Let me turn these off. Every time you hit this, it likes to play, and I don't want to get in trouble for a copyright strike. These people are quick to copyright strike your video if you play another man's video. So we ain't trying to do that. So if you, the guy's coming to get my hair cut. All right, so it's time for me to go. I got the barber being here in a few minutes. All right, talk to you later, brothers. Bye bye.